Welcome into New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green, and we're about to get into a mailbag, which aired on our live show every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Look, turn on your notifications so you can join the fun when we start talking about Giants news and rumors and do these live mailbags. And if you haven't yet, go down right now, hit that big red button. Let's get to 10,000 subscribers. Let's do it for our guy, Eli. Let's ride. This first question coming in from Giancarlo Rodriguez. What's going on, Brody? What do we do if Saquon and Daniel Jones have a bad year? Do we draft a running back in the second round or sign a top-tier running back in free agency if available? So what do we do if Saquon and Daniel Jones have a bad year? They won't be on the Giants next year. It's literally as simple as that. The ball is in their court right now. They're controlling what they can control. As an athlete, that's all you can ask for. If Daniel Jones doesn't play well, he's not going to be the Giants quarterback next year. He's on the last year of his deal in his contract. Same with Saquon Barkley. But to answer the second part of your question, if Saquon Barkley struggles and he's not on the Giants next year, I don't really expect the Giants to use another first-round pick on a running back. Maybe a guy they like falls into the second round. But if we've known anything by watching what Buffalo did under Brian Daboll, they didn't really prioritize signing running backs by paying them a lot or drafting them in the early rounds of the NFL draft. I feel like you can get a lot of value later in the NFL draft at the running back position. It's a position that, you can find later in the draft. So I think they definitely will address it. I don't expect them to spend big money in free agency on a running back. Round 2 is a little too early for me to draft a running back. But if there's a guy that was a first-round guy that slips and he's there, sometimes if he's the best player available, I'm down to roll with that. Jeremy Chuggs, what up? Any free agents to keep an eye out for? What about bringing a familiar face home back to the Giants? We know the Giants' cornerback room is probably the biggest question mark on this team. I like Adoree Jackson. I think he's a good corner. I don't know if he's ready to be a number one corner for all 18 weeks and 17 games of the 2022 NFL season. So what about going out and signing a guy like Janoris Jenkins, someone that's been on this team before? Not this regime, different coaching staff, but he knows what it's like to play and be a part of the New York Giants family. I think he still has some gas in the tank. He showed some flashes last year for the Tennessee Titans. I don't think he's washed up at all. I'd like to bring Jack Rabbit back, a veteran guy. I also would like to bring in Jimmy Smith as a veteran piece to show some of these younger corners on the roster what it takes to play in the Don Wink Martindale system. Smith isn't a starter anymore at this point in his career, but he could show a guy like Rodarius Williams or Adoree Jackson or Cordell Flott, or all of the young Giants corners on this team, what it takes to play in this system. So those are two free agents that I'd be down for the Giants to go after. Give me Jack Rabbit, or you can go down and give me Jimmy Smith. I'm down with either of those guys, to be honest with you, Jeremy. Anthony Jones, what are you expecting from the Giants on defense this year under Martindale compared to Graham? Yes, Patrick Graham, he was the defensive coordinator for the Giants last year. And I'm going to expect on Sundays to see a completely different product out there. Because when Patrick Graham was the defensive coordinator for the Giants the past 2 seasons, they played a bend but don't break style of football. They were okay with teams driving on them and then forcing stops in the red zone and making teams settle for 3 points. That's not going to be the way under Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale is going to apply pressure to the opposing offenses, and he's going to dictate the pace of this game. Whereas Patrick Graham let the offense ran what they would, but once the field got smaller and the field shrunk, he got aggressive and made more plays for this Giants defense or put players in position to make more plays. Wink Martindale, he's going to blitz way more than Patrick Graham did. Expect to see more man coverage under a guy like Wink Martindale compared to Graham, and I'm expecting the Giants to have way more sacks this season than they did in the last 2 seasons for or under Patrick Graham. I'm expecting big changes philosophy-wise, scheme-wise, and I'm expecting the Giants to play way faster on that side of the football. But rank the Giants defense in the NFL for me. 1 being they're the best defense in the NFL, 32 being they're the worst defense in the NFL. I think the Giants can be a top 15 defense, this year. I think there's a lot of players on that side of the ball. Leonard Williams is a good football player. I like Azeez Ojulari, Kayvon Thibodeau. I think Adoree Jackson's a good player. I think Xavier McKinney is going to be competing to make the Pro Bowl this year. The Giants have a lot of talent on that side of the football. It's just now the time to make it happen and for Wink Martindale to bring this defense to another level. So let me know, 1 to 32, where's the Giants defense ranked this year in the National Football League? Sadie's Newts. Knots. Newts. Knots. Rate the Giants secondary right now. If you're asking me to do it, and that's a super chat. Cheers to you, Sadie's Knots. We're drinking for all super chats. All super chats, get on the show. I like that picture. That guy right there, what he said. I don't know if you could hear him, but I can't really say that. Rate the Giants secondary. I honestly, if we're just talking about the cornerback room, I would have to say probably a bottom 10 unit in the NFL. But when you factor in the safeties, I think they become a back half group in the NFL. I really like Xavier McKinney. He's one of the best safeties in the NFL. And I've got some stats that I want to pull up on Xavier McKinney real quick. Let me see if I can find them. I'll talk through it. I think McKinney does things at the safety spot that not a lot of safeties can do in the NFL. He can play in the box. He can come down and be a slot corner. He can be your single high free safety. He's someone that I really like. In 2021, the only player in the NFL with 90-plus tackles, 10 pass breakups, and 5 interceptions, that was Xavier McKinney. Tyrann Mathieu, he didn't do that. Derwin James, he didn't do that. Kevin Byard, he didn't do that. Jesse Bates, he didn't do that. Xavier McKinney, he lifts up this secondary. So I would say a back half, bottom 10 unit in the NFL, and that's something that the Giants are definitely going to address in the NFL draft next year, as well as free agency when they have a lot of money to spend. Appreciate it, Sadie's Knots. Blue City Empire Sports, my guy. I love seeing you in the comment section. I remember doing videos last June when I first started this channel and you were always in the comment section. How many wins and losses do you see the Giants having this year? When I look at this Giants schedule, it has a lot of games that are very winnable. And I'll talk through the winnable games. Obviously, you don't win every winnable game, but you can beat the Carolina Panthers. You can beat the Chicago Bears. You can beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can beat the Seattle Seahawks. You can beat the Houston Texans. You can beat the Detroit Lions. You can beat the Washington Football Team. And maybe you can split with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's 8. Is your pinky okay? That's 8 wins right there. And maybe you steal 7.5, 8 wins. Maybe you trip up against a team like the Detroit Lions. Maybe you split with a team like the Cowboys. Maybe you split with the Eagles. Maybe you beat Washington twice. Anywhere from 7-10 to 8-9, 9-8. Somewhere around there is where I see the Giants' record stacking up this year. And it's going to be very interesting to see if that's going to be good enough for Daniel Jones to be back under center next year. If you haven't yet, go down right now and hit that big red button and become a part of the family here at Giants Now, because that's really what we are. I talk to you guys every single day. I'm down in the comment section chopping it up with you. I talk with you guys more than I do my actual family, and that's a little bit sad, but that's how much I like talking Giants football. And we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. We're less than 500 away. So let's do it for Eli Manning, the best quarterback to ever wear big blue. Lock us in. Go down right now. Hit that big red button. Anthony Raza, my guy, I appreciate you, bro. Would the failure of Danny cause Tyrod's value to rise? He is there. The only way I really see Tyrod Taylor coming in to relieve Daniel Jones is if he's hurt. I really believe that Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka are going to give Daniel Jones a full leash to go out and prove if he's the guy for next year. Because you really don't get anything out of subbing out Daniel Jones and putting in Tyrod Taylor. Because even if Tyrod Taylor plays good, is he the guy that you're really going to roll with for the next 3, 4, 5 years? If Daniel Jones plays bad and say the Giants miss the playoffs, or if they don't win a playoff game, and he's not back, the Giants are going to pick a quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft. Or maybe they'd make a trade for a quarterback and go and sign one in free agency. I just don't really see a way that Tyrod becomes the quarterback of the New York Giants. I think Daniel Jones is going to have the whole season to prove himself. But Anthony, I appreciate your question. One of the realists in the game. Ryan Chinsky, what's going on, man? I saw the Falcons were shopping Dion Jones. Could the Giants trade for him? Yes, Dion Jones is on the trade block, but he's nursing an injury, and right now he might not even be ready to play in Week 1 of the NFL season. No doubt about it, Dion Jones is one of the best inside linebackers in the NFL, and he's been so since he entered the league. Last year, he had 137 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, but this is a guy that plays sideline to sideline. He would be great in a Wink Martindale defense. And I don't think you'd have to give up a lot in a trade, but it would cost the Giants $10.7 million to trade for Dion Jones. And right now the Giants have about $6 million in cap space. So unless they go out and make a trade to clear more cap space, or they go out and cut someone, I don't see a way that the Giants actually go out and make a trade for Deion Jones. If I was playing Madden, I'd make it happen. I love the linebacker duo of Blake Martinez and Deion Jones. But honestly, Deion Jones, he's a 28-year-old linebacker coming off a serious injury, and you don't really want to pay those guys a lot of money because linebackers don't really last that long in the NFL. It's like the running back of the defense. But I'll leave it up to you, Giants fans. Should the Giants trade for Deion Jones? Type T for trade, or you can go down in the comment section and type P for pass. If you love the NBA and you love watching the NBA draft, make sure you go down right now and subscribe to our main Chat Sports channel here. We have over 300,000 subscribers over there. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV. My guy Patrick Seatman's going to put the link to that in the comment section right now because we're going to be going live for the NBA draft next Thursday, June 23rd. We're going to be breaking down all picks. I also host our Knicks channel here, so if you love the Knicks, I can hook you up over there, youtube.com/KnicksTV. But if you want to hear the picks right when they're announced, instead of having to wait 5 to 10 minutes after Woj puts it out on Twitter, you're going to love our draft coverage. Join us over there as we go live for the NBA draft every single year. The big move. Do you think the Giants will be much better in the second half of the season after the bye week when they should be gelling? So the Giants' bye week is in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Week 9. After the bye week, they play the Texans, Lions, Cowboys, Washington football team, Eagles, Washington football team, Vikings, Colts, and Eagles. I see a couple winnable games, but I really think it's going to depend on the start of the season. I know that's hard to say when you have a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, but the Giants have come slow out of the gates for as long as I can remember being a Giants fan. It's time for them to start fast. You have games against the Titans and Panthers. If you can start 1-1 in the first 2 weeks of the season, I think you're off to a good start. But I do think it's going to take a little bit of while for everything to gel on this team. Like we said, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. So maybe the Giants will be hitting their stride down the second half of the season. But as I look at this schedule right here, I think the first half of the season is actually a little bit easier for the New York Giants. Appreciate it, Big Moo. Saigai Bree, or Saigai Bree, am I saying that right? Are we sleeping a bit on Gano? If you're asking me about the kicker, Graham Gano, or are you asking me about the offensive tackle? The offensive tackle that the Giants signed in free agency, I don't think we're sleeping on him. I think he's going to be the swing tackle for this team. I actually think he's going to take the spot of Matt Parrott, and that's a little bit impressive. A guy that was picked in the 3rd round just a couple of years ago under Dave Gettleman. If you're talking about Graham Gano, I don't think anyone's sleeping on him. I think he's the best kicker, one of the best kickers in the NFL, and he's a badass. Justin Tucker is a good kicker, but Gano is a top 5 guy as well, in my opinion. He was great for the Giants last year. They kicked so many field goals. I saw him out on the field more than other players that I wanted to see. But no, I don't think the players or people are sleeping on either Gano. The tackle Gano, he's going to be the swing tackle, and he's going to make this Giants roster for sure. If he gets a chance to play, maybe I'll eat my words and be wrong. And look, if he is great, I'd love to be wrong. Because look, if he's great, that means the Giants are going to be better. Last question, Sydney 11, what's going on? What will Daniel Jones have to do this season to be the QB next year? This is a great question. I was actually talking about this with my producer, who's actually a Chicago Bears fan. And I think Daniel Jones and Mitchell Trubisky are in a very similar situation. Trubisky is last year led the Chicago Bears to the playoffs. They lost in the wild card game against the New Orleans Saints. But I think it's going to take a similar type of season for the Giants to give Daniel Jones an extension. If the Giants don't make the playoffs, I don't think they necessarily have to win a playoff game, but if they don't make the playoffs, the pressure's on, and Joe Schoen is going to have to make a really tough decision. Because if you don't make the playoffs, you're going to be picking in the top 16 of the NFL draft, and that's in a prime range to trade up if you want to go get a guy. So if I had to make a prediction today, if the Giants don't make the playoffs, I don't really see Daniel Jones being back next year, but he's going to have a chance to prove it. And as a competitor, as a quarterback, that's all you can ask for. But I'll leave this question up to you guys because I'm still on the fence. Maybe the Giants go 9-8 or 10-7 and don't make the playoffs, and they bring Daniel Jones back. I'd be okay with that. But do you think Daniel Jones will be the quarterback for the Giants next season? Type DJ if you think Daniel Jones is the guy, or you can go down in the comment section and type O if you think somebody else will be the quarterback for the Giants next year.